All right. We are live, so it is telling me. So any moment now, I should start to see people starting to pop up in the feed and saying that they are joining us. So I'm just going to wait a moment. There's nobody yet that's joined, but I do know that this is going to be shown on replay. This is going to be available on replay. So I'm actually going to get started because we may just have a whole lot of people that couldn't jump on at 3 o'clock today, but they will watch the replay later tonight. So I want to welcome everyone, and I want to welcome you, Jodie Becker. So this is the Jodie and Jodie show today for those of you that are watching. So it's an exciting day, and this has been something that we have been talking about, you and I, Jode, for quite a while. This is a topic that I think we're both really passionate about, which is why when this came up, it was actually, oh, we have a couple people that have joined. Welcome. If you can see on the right side of your screen, to those of you that have joined, if you could just type in the box your name and where you're joining us from, we would love to know who we have on the live call with us today. And then there's also a box on the upper right side of your screen that asks you to give permission to StreamYard to be able to show your name and your face, your Facebook icon. So if you're agreeable to that, you could click on that so that we can actually see when you type a comment, we can actually see who is typing the comment. But anyways, in the meantime, if you don't mind, Carrie is here. Hi there, Carrie. Thanks for joining us. And we'll just see who else posts a comment that they have joined. But just by way of intro, so I want to start by saying, if you're watching this, you are already a part of our Find Your 40 group in Facebook, our private group. Hi, Charlene. Thanks for joining. So this Find Your 40 group in Facebook is it's a community of women that come together. Jodie, I know you know this, but I'm saying this for any of the viewers that are just tuning in right now. So if you're new to this group and you've just joined the group so that you can watch this, then that's great. Awesome. Thank you for being here. This is a community of women that identify as being a woman in your 40s. So as long as you use that as a definition, hi there, Susie, thanks for joining. As long as you define yourself as a woman in your 40s and you feel like you belong in this group, then you are absolutely welcome to be in this group. So that's the first thing that I want to say. And I always want people to know that this is an inclusive group where everybody is welcome. And it's a forum for all of us to discuss different issues that we face as women in our 40s or women nearing our 40s. So our guest today, Jodie Becker, is not yet in her 40s, but still nonetheless, she's a few years away from 40, but she's embarking on a really interesting time in her life. And she's got a lot of insights and deals with a lot of clients and deals with the community through a bunch of different ways that she interacts in the community. So she has a lot of knowledge about what it's like, and she hangs around with me, so she knows what it's like to be a woman in her 40s. Hi, Teresa. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we're going to see more people coming in, but that's the little intro about this group, the Find Your 40 group. This topic today is all about exposing the dark side of the wellness industry. And we're not saying the fitness industry. And you and I, Jodie, when we were talking about this a week or two ago, we wanted to make that distinction because this is not specific just to the fitness industry. This is something that I think we're all seeing across the whole wellness industry that is much broader than just fitness. Because I would say it even includes skincare companies. Hopefully Clean Kiss does not do this, but if anyone ever feels that Clean Kiss is doing this, I want you to tell me and call me out on it, because that's how we keep this language and this conversation going all the time, right? So we are talking today about how this wellness industry sometimes can prey on the insecurities that we have as women as their mode to actually make money. Right? So how did this
Definitely.
come about? How did this come about, Jodie?
Well, I've become a little bit more vocal in the past couple of years, but when I thought about this question, when did you first start noticing? It was almost immediately when I left my corporate career in 2016 and joined, the fitness and wellness industry. I don't think I was able to articulate it at the time, but the gym that I started working at, we really saw, the organization really saw people as numbers and dollar signs, basically. We were taught that when they walk in the door, you put people on a scale and you try to sell them a package. And so I think over time, what I was finding is that, I was seeing these people as people, and I was really starting to develop some connections with them that were meaningful. And most of the time I learned, people were not coming to the gym to step on the scale and have themselves measured and compete against one another. I mean, sure, as an athlete, I definitely love some competition, but at the heart of it, people were there to feel better and to find a sense of community. And so I really had this distaste in my mouth about, what type of organizations I wanted to work for and be a part of when it comes to how we treat people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you need to tell everybody what it is that you do, because I think you wear many hats, girl. You are one busy woman, soon to be even busier. And hopefully you're going to slow down a little bit and reprioritize your life. And I know that's already wheels in motion as you shift, albeit for a short time, I know, while you have the baby. But I want you to tell everybody all these different jobs that you do and all your different passions and what kind of led you down this road. So you left the corporate world and then you got into what? And what are you doing now in terms of all these hats that I'm referring to?
Yeah. So I left the corporate world, like I said, in 2016, and it actually at the time wasn't my choice. I think, I believe in the universe had my back for sure and got me out. But I was fired because I was living with a generalized anxiety disorder that I was undiagnosed and I didn't know about. And, I ended up losing my job and having to sort of refigure out what I wanted to do. I recognized that the somewhat toxicity of the corporate world as well, and the hours that I was working and the environment that I was working in was really leading to my the demise of my mental health. So upon leaving my corporate job, I actually founded a nonprofit. Originally, it wasn't a nonprofit. It was a business that I started called Fitness for Mental Health. And it was really about focusing on the correlation between physical activity and mental well-being. I learned, I think, younger than I realized that, exercise is really good for my mental well-being. And I think we all kind of know that to some degree. But what I recognized was that there was a difference between what we know and what we're able to execute on our own. So anybody can tell you to go for a run, but so often what people really need is that support from another person, in the form of it could be a personal trainer, it could be a coach, to just sort of say, let's get you out, let's get you moving, and, helping hold you to it so that you can start to feel better over time. It obviously doesn't happen overnight. So Fitness for Mental Health was born in 2016. And then about a year later, what I recognized was that people who really need the services were having a hard time paying for them. So the people who are often struggling the most, they often have other things that are happening in their lives. So we changed the business model to become a nonprofit so that we can offer the services on a sliding scale. And we accept private and corporate donations as well as grant funding and stuff like that to be able to offer fitness support services to people who are living with mental health challenges. We've grown to over 75 people who've been trained through our program. So we train personal trainers to sort of help people who've been living with mental health challenges other than, measuring on a scale and stuff like that. We use quality of life assessment and things like that. So that's one thing I do.
That's one, yeah.
And the other is that I've been, really focused on the sport of triathlon for the past few years. I do events still. So my old world was in events, and I love it. And I found a really great group of people that I work with and run one event a year, and I help on a couple others. And I'm also the spokesperson for hydro pool swim spas. And so I do a lot of like swimming and aquatic fitness that helps people get, active in the swim spa as well.
You do. And if anybody's ever in a hydro pool store or jacuzzi store, if you look in the little brochure or up on the wall, you might actually see Jodie. She's one of their spokespersons and models. So that's actually, right. I actually want to get her autograph later. So I have to do that. So Jodie is amazing. And you also have a big life change that you are about to undergo. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 37 weeks pregnant and just trying to keep moving until the day my little boy comes.
Yeah. So you're about, less than 3 weeks away now until the due date. So that's why I was, so you are the first of 3 speakers. So the other 2 I know are also on the call. Carrie and Susie are both also on the call right now. So that's great. And so we put you on first, Jodie, just in case if you go early. Yeah. And what is really what I think is really special. Obviously, I know you very well, Jodie. I also know Carrie and Susie very well, and the 3 of you, while I think I was out walking the dog one day, and I was like, wow, I'm surrounded by these amazing women. And as I said recently on a video that I did on Facebook, I really believe that, and I heard this quote a couple of years ago, that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so I love to surround myself with really positive, energetic women that are inspiring. And you are one of those. And, so all 3 of you in this series, I believe, are those people to me and those people in my life that inspire me to be better and to do better. So I'm so happy that you're here today to talk about this issue, because what I'm hearing you say is, so you not only do you have expertise in fitness, you've got expertise in mental health, you have found a way to bring fitness and mental health together, because they do go together as a way for so many people to find an outlet to help them with their anxiety, with their mental health challenges of all sorts, right? I mean, it's so complex. Can you tell us a little bit more? I know you shared with me some really interesting stats about fitness for mental health. Can you just share some of that with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one stat that everybody hears that I would definitely like to speak out against is sort of 1 in 5 people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime. And this is a stat that's commonly thrown around. And I think that initially it was aimed at, breaking down the stigma. Okay, 20%, wow, that's a lot. But at the end of the day, mental health is the same as our physical health. So some days we can have a cold, we can have a flu, we can have an ear infection. Mental health is the same thing. And so, yes, there are, there is a book that you can use, you professionals can use to diagnose mental health disorders. But I think it's also important that we recognize that our mental health needs to be taken care of just as much as our physical health. And so, that is one statistic that I really like to speak out against, because we all have mental health and it fluctuates all the time. And if we become, attuned to what it feels like when we are experiencing a challenge, and also on the same token, how we can support our partners, our family members, our kids, when they are experiencing challenges as well, we can all work towards, really feeling better and just breaking down the stigma in general. Right. When it comes to exercise, they recommend there's been a lot of studies out there around the correlation between 20 to 30 minutes of physical activity performed 3 times a week. That's kind of a secret sauce that's not so secret that we use when we're trying to help support people. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so I would imagine, though, as you said, one of the biggest barriers that you find is, financial resources
Mm-hmm.
for people
Mm-hmm.
to have the resources to do that. But also, probably when you are in a low state of mental health,
Sure.
you're feeling unwell. It probably is a big hurdle for you to be able to identify that, to be able to express it, communicate it to somebody, or, for your family members or loved ones to be able to identify that you might be struggling.
Totally. And that comes with time and practice. And so even still to this day, I'm working on it. I'm currently working on, my postpartum mental health plan. What will I do when? What are some things that I know will help me feel better? So I was talking to my partner about that this morning, actually. If we find that things don't go well with my mental health, what are some things that we're going to do together? What can you say? What can we do? And it really, for me, it often comes down to physical activity, but who knows how long I'm going to be able to do that again, or until I'm going to be able to
Yeah.
get back to my regular workouts. So things like meditation and breath work, really, and naps.
So
for me.
I can't tell you how much I am absolutely loving what you're saying, because, back in the day, I mean, my eldest is about to turn 20. Oh my God, on Sunday. And so, with my teenagers, and I know some of the friends and people that I can see that are on this call right now have older kids. And so this was not a discussion that happened 15, 16, 20 years ago when we were having kids, when I was having kids. This discussion didn't happen. You didn't talk about postpartum. You suffered. I remember questioning, like, I don't even know if what I'm feeling is postpartum. Could I just be tired? What is this, right? And so it was something, thankfully, I was fortunate. I don't think I suffered greatly, but I love the fact that you are so proactive, that you know yourself so well, and that you are treating your mental health as a priority just as much as your physical health, and that you're getting everything, in place should you need it. And that's what we would do for our physical health anyway. So why wouldn't we treat mental health the same way? Right?
Yeah. And you know what? The pandemic took a toll on a lot of people. It came kind of as a surprise. We didn't realize it. And so as a collective, our mental health is suffering because of the pandemic too. And so there's people who are now having to be reactive and trying to find ways to move their bodies, trying to find ways to feel better mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That are kind of having to be reactive because they couldn't plan for it. So
right. Oh my gosh, I'm loving this, and I'm actually taking us down another path. I didn't actually even intend for us to go deep into this topic,
okay.
but I just find this fascinating, and I just think that what you're doing is so inspiring that I wanted others on this call to be able to hear it today. So thank you for sharing some of that with us. I think that's really inspiring. Let's talk about this. Let's go back to this main topic, because I think there's so much to unpack there, right? There's so much around what we're seeing in the wellness industry. And so can you think of any examples off the top of your head, without maybe, pointing fingers at specific companies or specific products, but can you think of a more broad example that maybe people can relate to, that they'll think, oh, next time I see this, maybe I'll actually think twice about it, because maybe it is this health washing that's happening, that's preying on my insecurities, rather than truly something that I need, in order to make me look better or feel better, or whatever claim the company makes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's funny because last night I was looking at some postpartum vitamins, and there was a brand of vitamins that had the women's label on it, and the box was pink. And it was the regular bottle, let's call it, was $13, and the pink bottle was $21. And so I just, I think in general, we need to be aware of this pink tax that exists, that, okay, women, we want the women's version, we want the women's brand, but why on earth are we ending up paying more for
Right.
something that is exactly the same but has a pink box. Side note to all of that, when we talk about preying on insecurities, I will again hosted fitness retreats in Mexico, which you came on, and
Yeah.
and on my first retreat,
so
yeah, hopefully we'll get back to them. On my first retreat, I had a woman who's become a close friend. After taking a photo and us all looking at, she goes, "Oh, mine looks like a before photo," and I remember thinking, "Oh, what does that mean?" And she sort of felt like she was going to use that photo as a way to motivate her to, change her body so that she fit into this version of after. And so if there's going to be one thing that I'm going to say to look out for on your social media feeds is these before and after photos, because before photos are not, there's nothing wrong with you in the before photo. You are still the, kind, caring, empathetic, giving, generous human being that everybody knows you to be. And that's not going to change if you try to fit your body into what looks like an after photo. So for me, cleansing my feed of anything, anytime I saw before and after, I deleted the account. I stopped following it. And, you could really be surprised of what what changes you see. Some people, when I make this statement, they say, okay, but those things inspire me and those motivate me. And that's fine. Obviously you got to do you, but I find the majority of the time, the after photos look like a version of a body that a very small percentage of women can, look like. And it's not something that we should all strive for. We should acknowledge that all bodies are different. We should acknowledge that all bodies require access to fitness. And the after photos are not really a product of you, being strong, feeling well,
right.
So.
And in fact, the truth be told, and I've got other friends that are, have been in the past, bikini competitors, fitness models, things like that, where absolutely they've got these amazing before and after photos. The after photos do not tell the picture, because that is a person that is unhappy, that has in many ways abused their body, neglected their mental health. And so many of these women, and I think I've even had some male friends say to me that they actually would never recommend that we put our bodies through these extreme things, because it really does mess with our mental health. And, and what are you doing it for? Just so you can stand up on the stage and get that praise. And so it comes into like a much bigger topic, which is, where do we need to get that sense of accomplishment and appreciation for ourselves? Is it always having to come from an external source, or how do we actually find a way to get that sense of feeling good in our bodies from within,
right?
Not from external sources, right?
There's a lot of historical context, I think, that's associated with that. Not even 100 years ago, women were still fighting for their right to participate in an election. And so, I think it's still ingrained in women that, in order to be accepted and valued, you need to look a certain way and you need to behave a certain way. And so, slowly over time, we're starting to fight against that. On the point of fitness competitions, I think that there's a lot to be said for working hard at something and in achieving your goal. And yes, I've heard a lot of that as well around, often it comes at the cost of physical and mental health. But, how do we change it? I think that we acknowledge, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this so that I can try to look like the images that I see in the media, the images that I see in my social feed? We're seeing a lot of change right now, but I think you also have to look for the change and seek out the change in your own sort of like what you take in from a media perspective. So that's what I would recommend, watching your own internal bias, like we were talking about that as well. And I caught myself not so long ago, and I will confess, I follow a lot of like mom stuff, right? And so I've been seeing a lot of images on my social media with like stretch marks and it's okay. And I remember thinking, okay, cool. As long as that doesn't happen to me, and I was so afraid. And then I had to stop and I had to think, so what?
Right.
Is my little boy going to be healthy? Am I still going to have a great relationship with my partner? Are we going to make, a family dynamic that is supportive for a young man to grow up in? Like, why did that affect me? It's because, we're raised to think that, and society makes us think that unless we look a certain way that, we're not beautiful. But
right.
It's not true.
It's not true. And so what would you say to women that are, having that internal struggle every day? From a mental health standpoint, what would you say to them? Like, what is one thing, so you've already suggested watching what you're looking at on social media. So removing things out of your feed. What's something else that people can do in order to try to start being okay and loving their own body and just being okay with the body that you're in, the body, whether it be, the body type that you were born into, whether your body has changed over the years, pre-children, post-children, like whatever, perimenopause, postmenopausal, we are going to keep going through these bodily changes throughout our entire life. So, are we going to struggle with this our entire life? Are we going to be, 75 years old and going, oh God, I've got stretch marks? Or, at what point do we just kind of go, it is what it is. I'm happy with this body. I love this body. How do we get there?
I think, I have to say, I have to put the disclaimer that, I'm very, it's important that I acknowledge that I have what is called thin privilege, right? I've never had to exist in a body where I can't go to the groceries or to the mall and buy whatever I want. I've never had a doctor, ignore my health concerns and say, lose weight and then we'll talk. So I really need to sort of say that I can't speak for everybody from a personal perspective. Yeah. That being said, gratitude, and it sounds so cliche, getting really clear with what's important and what's not important to you as a woman. At the end of the day, you think about what matters to me, and you often look at things like how you treat others, how, you support your loved ones. These are the things that, are all really important to us. And not to be, again, too cliche, but when you die, no one's really talking about how much money you had, unless it's your will, I guess, or, what your body looks like, right? So, it's all about what type of person you were and how much you cared for others and how you supported others. And, if there's people in your life who make you feel less than, they don't need to, they don't need to be around.
It shouldn't be in your top 5.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Of the people that we're closest with. If somebody is constantly, intentionally or unintentionally making you feel bad about yourself, I think you do need to reach a point where you go, I'm not sure if this person is good for my mental health. I'm not sure if they're a good person for me to be surrounded with, right?
Yeah.
Teresa just posted a comment.
I see that.
Age makes us more accepting of ourselves, less concerned about what others think. Freedom 55. That's awesome. And you know what? And that is exactly what you've just put there, Teresa, is exactly what I'm hoping that women in this Find Your 40 community are feeling. That we are more accepting of ourselves. That it's, it's not about, what size we wear or, how many wrinkles we have or don't have or any of that business. It's about feeling really good in your own skin. Your lover isn't looking at your stretch marks. He or she is loving you. Absolutely. Exactly. And if they are looking at your stretch marks or commenting on your cellulite or your wrinkles, it's probably time to say, see you later, because you're not one of my 5. You're not good for my health, right?
Exactly.
So thank you for that, for those comments, Teresa. Very well. Okay, so where were we? That was those were some really good points that you made there, Jodie, around that. Let's talk about even our language. I know this is something you and I spoke about. So you run into a friend that you haven't seen during all of COVID, and you happen to make a mental note that, he or she has gained weight, lost weight. Let's go with the lost weight one though, because I think that's probably more of the conversation that we wanted to go down. So you notice that this friend has lost weight. What does your language say, your body language, your verbal language, that is probably something that you need to think twice about?
Yeah. I mean, this one hits home for me every time, because I spent a lot of time, I lived out west, so I'd come here and then I'd be gone for a year. And, in your 20s and 30s, your weight's fluctuating, you're changing and people always comment. And so what I've made a hard and fast rule is that's not something that we say, even though we are so trained when we feel that perhaps someone has lost weight, to say, wow, you look amazing.
Yeah.
And what does that do to your loved ones or friends' psyche when you're letting them know that weight loss is equivalent to looking amazing? There's so much, and I don't have to tell you, there's so much that goes on with being unhealthy or being physically sick and potentially losing weight, that everybody has their own story going on with their health. And I think too, when being pregnant, everybody loves to comment, on my weight and my size. And there's been days, as I've told you, where it's been really tough. We all are susceptible to this feeling that we have to fit into a certain body type, right, or size in order to be considered. I hate the word normal, right? I tell everybody normal is just a setting on the dryer, because it really doesn't exist. There is no such thing as normal. And so
say that. Yeah.
If you think about it, what is normal?
There is no normal.
No.
Common sense. It doesn't exist. So
yeah.
Put it away.
Yeah. So just being, watching yourself and training yourself to think, okay, how can I greet my loved one, and let them know that I'm so happy to see them without, commenting on their physical appearance.
Right.
And then working through it mentally as well, just so that you get to the point where you don't even notice anymore. And that's hopefully where we can all get to, maybe in 100 years.
And it is such a thing, right? And especially if you're the person that has worked really hard to lose weight, get in shape, whatever it is, that you've been making some conscious body choices to change your body in some way. The one thing you want is people to acknowledge you, right? Yeah. So I'm your best friend, and I've just been working my butt off this whole COVID period because I want to have a COVID body, as people are saying. Mind you, I'm also hearing people are getting a COVID body or a COVID body, right? And who cares? Because both are fine, right? So if you're not feeling like you want to get out physically, and your place right now is that the best you can do is walk around the block because that's your capacity right now, then that's okay. And if you are noticing bodily changes and you are putting on weight, that's okay, right? You're going to do what's okay for your body right now. If you're going the other way and you're going, well, I'm going to take this COVID downtime and I'm going to get the body of my dreams. So now I run into you and you're not acknowledging that. Right? So now that's the other issue is, so not only should you be not reinforcing, oh, wow, you've lost all this weight, you look amazing, but tell somebody, well, did they not look amazing before?
Right.
Exactly. And you gain all this weight back, or you're not as fit or not as whatever the label is a year from now when I see you again and you don't comment, then is my mental health going to suffer? Because I'm going to go, oh, well, she told me a year ago that I looked amazing, and now I've let it slack a little bit, so now I need to step it back up again. It's such a slippery slope. And I think what I've taken from you, Jodie, from past conversations we've had, and hopefully people are getting this today, is we need to just take it out of our vocabulary. So if I don't comment today and I don't comment a year from now, then I still love you. That's just not something I'm going to comment on, because it's a trigger potentially for me. It's a trigger for you. It's just not something that it needs to be in our vocabulary at all. Right? Yeah. And, there's a lot of
terminology that's coming out of 2020, words that I'm learning. You know, it's actually, I would put it under the category of microaggression, you know, like commenting on somebody's body, especially if it's a man commenting on a woman's body. You know, you're sort of acknowledging that the way that I look matters and really doesn't.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't change my value. It doesn't change my worth. It doesn't change who I am on the inside. My body is my shell for everything else that makes me who I am. It's just,
and in the mental health world, we talk about how to ask somebody if they're feeling okay without making any implications. And so there's different things that you can do there too. You can sort of say, like, I've noticed a change in your behavior X, you know, or I've noticed that recently Y, you know, and it's okay to sort of comment on behavior changes if you're genuinely concerned about somebody's well-being, but that has nothing to do with the body, right?
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that. That is all good advice. So you were mentioning that your experience as, you know, as being pregnant, and you're an athlete, and this is a first for you to, you know, to have this this time period where you're not training hard, because you've been training hard for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Always training, always doing something. You were also teaching fitness, in class and body sculpt, and you've been like, and coaching, and like, you've always been active, right? So what has changed for you, and how have you resolved right now that this doesn't have to be a priority for you, because you have other priorities? And not to say that being active and, you know, working on your fitness priorities and being a triathlete rather, is not an important priority. Those are goals, those are passions that you have, and I'm assuming they're going to resume. But how did you, during this time period, come to the point where you said, this is not something that is a priority at this point in my life? How'd you grapple with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting year because of COVID. Finding out that I was pregnant literally 2 weeks before we went into a major lockdown was a total whirlwind. And prior to going into lockdown, I was planning to participate in the World Championships of Triathlon for the second year in a row. This year was going to be in Edmonton. So all of a sudden, within a 2-month period, the World Championships are canceled. I find out that I'm pregnant, and we're in a global pandemic. So, you know, there was a lot of, you know, comfort eating that I had to do to get through it. We really enjoyed baking, and, you know, it was beautiful. And exercise. So I was very lucky. You know, my first trimester was not that bad, but it still wasn't great. You know, I was feeling quite sick and very tired. And I spent a lot of time wondering what was wrong with me, because here I am in secret, you know, because it's the first 3 months and you're not supposed to tell anyone. Man, I'd love to break down that stigma, because if I had had my community of women around me saying, oh yeah, this is normal, I would have felt so much better. But, you know, I haven't really trained that much. I've gone for tons of walks. I went for lots of bike rides up until about 5 months, 6 months, when it got to be a bit too cumbersome. But this is amazing. My body's going to go through the experience of giving birth. My body's going to go through the experience of coming back to going to the World Championships next year. I have a very close friend who, you know, I broke my ankle back in 2003. And I had surgery on it in 2012, and she came and stayed with me. And she said, you know, I'm always so in awe of your body. And I didn't know what that meant. She watched me crutch up 3 flights of stairs on 1 foot. And she was like, I could never do that. And I just kind of thought, And ever since that moment, I've been like, yeah, my body can do whatever. You know, my body is like there for me. It has my back. And again, I'm lucky. Not everybody can say that. I feel grateful to have that feeling inside of me. And so I just feel like, okay, my body is going to bounce back from a performance perspective. I look back on photos, Jodes, from August of last year, where I remember thinking at the time, I'm too big, right? I'm 2 weeks away from World Championships. And I look at those photos now and I think, God, girl, you were so fit, about to go compete at like the highest level you'll probably ever compete. And you were giving yourself a hard time about your body. So I think, what I'm really trying to focus on is just being able to run again, being able to ride my bike again, swimming again. It's going to be all amazing regardless of what shape I am.
It is going to be amazing. And you
Yeah.
will, I know you, I believe so well that I know you're going to just determine what is best for your physical and mental health at that time. And, I'm hoping, my hope for you is that you don't push yourself or have expectations on yourself. And I don't think you do from the conversations that we've had, but I'm here to keep you in check. So don't
Thank you
worry. I'm going to make sure that you don't push yourself too hard.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, I know one of the things we haven't talked about is you were talking a little bit about that you're in the event business.
Yep.
And so you are coming up with a really cool event that has had to be postponed because of COVID, because everything's been postponed because of COVID, except for these lovely live calls that we're now able to do. But tell us about this event that you have planned and what makes this event different, because I think this is really cool and I think you're actually going to start a big trend with this.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you do anyways.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I was connected with a Niagara resident in December of last year, a man who had an idea around a fitness expo. He kind of talked to me about how Niagara region doesn't have anything like that. So if you come to Toronto, man, we have everything in Toronto, right? There's right. all kinds of events and sort of expos, but he kind of talked about how Niagara Falls didn't have anything like that. And so I was keen to get on board from an event support perspective, but I really started to break it down and think, okay, like how can I have my impact on this event in a way that is super meaningful to me? And so, I pitched to him some guiding principles or values that I felt that were really important if we were going to move forward with what we've now called the Niagara Fitness and Wellness Expo. And they are things like age inclusion. So when it comes to the consumers that we want to serve, the businesses that we want to serve, we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for learning and connection for people of all ages. So that goes from kid fitness all the way up to, people, active seniors in their 80s and 90s. Diversity and inclusion. So if you ever Google fitness, like if you're trying to look for some sort of stock photography, everybody is a thin white woman. They all kind of look like me. And so it was really important to me that when we were connecting with businesses and we were connecting with our potential consumers, we acknowledged that there are people of all shapes and colors who want to participate in fitness. And there are not, we've been talking about this over the past few months, with the Black Lives Matter movement. And we've really started to look at ourselves and go, why aren't there any people of color who work out at the gym where I work? And why don't, people feel welcome and included there? And so we've all kind of had to go inside and say, okay, how can we actively be anti-racist and ensure that we are working to not just say that we're creating an inclusive space, but actually creating an inclusive space. And so I'm still working on, what that means. So yeah, and again, diet culture is not welcome at the Niagara Fitness and Wellness Expo. So anybody that's trying to sell some sort of quick fix diet solution, you're not going to find them at the expo. You're going to kind of find an inclusive space where people just know that fitness is about overall well-being and not about, trying to look a certain way. So
not about trying to be a certain way or look a certain way or I love that. And I can't wait for this event when it actually does take place. So it's all scheduled for 2022.
March, pardon me, of 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
Well, it should be here before we know it anyways. You've got lots to keep you busy between now and then. I know that
totally.
for sure. So
yeah,
it'll be great when it actually does come. So that's awesome. We're going to be wrapping up in a few moments. I do have I do have, I think, one more point that I want to make. But before I do, I want to just see if there's any questions, comments, anything that any of you that are on this call right now, if you have anything that you want to ask to Jodie, if there's any comment that you want to make, if there's any like thumbs up, you go girl kind of comments, now would be the time, and we can take any questions or address your comments right now while we're doing that. I just want to come back to fitness for mental health, because I know we talked about that in the beginning when we started chatting. And I just want to know if there is more information that people want to get about fitness for mental health. How can they get involved? How can they get more information? Where do they go?
Thank you. Yeah, our website is fitforthemind.ca. That's where we live. But if you Google fitness for mental health, our SEO has been amazing. Google actually provides a lot of SEO support to nonprofits. So we will come up if you just Google us. We are currently going through a bit of a board overhaul right now. I've been sort of acting as the executive director and the board chair, which doesn't work. So we are looking for a board chairperson to take over and kind of lead the organization for the next few years. So if anybody out there, would be interested in supporting our mission is to change the way mental health is treated in Canada. Donations to the cause are always welcome. Like I said, money goes directly to providing subsidized opportunities for people to have support. So we have a handful of people who we're working with right now who, like I said, they've been unemployed due to COVID. They get a 30-minute workout with one of our fitness support specialists at a subsidized rate. We're helping keep people out of the hospital. We're helping keep people feeling well. It's, we're really trying to.
Wow. I love
as many people as we can. Thank you.
I love what you do. And honestly, girl, when I hear you talk, it just reinforces why you're one of my 5. Honestly, you are multifaceted and so impressive. And truly every day you do help me to think differently and to act and to do better. So thank you so much. Nobody has posted any additional questions.
Okay.
But having said that, like I said, I know this replay is going to be available here in this Find Your 40 group. And so if you're watching this on the replay, know that you can post questions. The link to Jodie will also be included with this video. So if you want to reach out to Jodie directly, you can. As she mentioned, fitforthemind.ca is the website for Fitness for Mental Health. And she is at Jodie Becker Fitness. So that's how you can get in touch with Jodie, through Facebook or through Instagram. And Jodie, I am so, so grateful to you today, every day, but today for coming on and talking about this topic, because I really think that the more we all become aware of our language, of our own biases, the fact that you said you've got thin white privilege. Yeah, absolutely. I do too. And it's only really in this past year that I've really realized that we've got so much privilege and we've got so much ability to impact change. And unless we start doing it, it's not going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So, so I thank you for raising these points and raising these these important discussions around mental health and around fat phobia and around the fitness industry or the wellness industry, and just opening our eyes to these things that we often can just go around our day with blinders on, and it's not going to help.
And that's our privilege. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity so much. I really appreciate it, and happy to answer any other questions that anyone else might have or be in touch.
You're a gem. Thanks, Jodie.
Thank you.
I'm gonna end the broadcast now. Thank you to everybody who joined us. And as you know, you are always welcome to invite more people into this Find Your 40 group. If this video is, so this video will be shared, as I mentioned, it'll be posted to this group. You will not be able to forward this video to somebody But you can definitely invite them to join the group, and then they can watch the video in our Find Your 40 group. So that's just because it's a private group, and there is a restriction on Facebook, which I tried to get around and it wouldn't let me. So thanks everyone for your support today and for your comments and for being here. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.